Good morning and welcome to Money Info, brought to you by Princeton Research. Go to the Princeton Research website, princetonresearch.com. Very straightforward, to say the least. And a weekly update every weekend from Mike King in Las Vegas and Charles Moskowitz in Boston. And guys, very pleasant good morning to
the people are bearish still.
well, isn't that normally what happens, though?
Well, that's actually a good sign. That's actually a good sign.
Yeah, you get a lot of euphoria usually at the top, and
cell service. Who do you use?
for the cell phone,
Yeah, cell phone.
I use AT&T.
You're AT&T, Charles.
Same.
Oh man. Why? But AT&T is talking about buying DirecTV. So those of us who are held captive by AT&T Internet, not by design, but just because, yeah, it's a flop. It's a big flop. So now they can screw up satellite television. $50 billion.
I think it's kind of the other way around.
Well,
I think
it's messed up anyway.
I think that attractive to them, I think, is that DirecTV is all over South and Central America.
Yes,
and AT&T stopped being an international.
Keep in mind, the AT&T that we know that's AT&T now is really Southwestern Bell out of Texas. I mean, they're headquartered in San Antonio and the whole thing. I mean, oh, yeah. You are right, Charles. It's like, holy smokes. That's why AT&T wants them. You bet.
Oh, yeah.
They're very, very
Absolutely.
good at what they do. And across the pond, my old boss, Rupert, apparently British Sky, which is yet another satellite service over in Great Britain, and Sky Deutschland and Sky Italy are all planning on merging into this one big Fox thing. And that thing could go another 20 years, and Rupert will be 103 or 104 at the time. And probably still the CEO at Fox.
I was going to say, I'm probably still
yes, he's
smacking these guys around.
Yeah. Was obviously Rupert. The other was Barry Diller. Barry Diller is just so engaging and just absolutely brilliant. And yeah, I'm absolutely amazed. Well, and now apparently, in the long term, is that good or bad? It sounds good to me. I mean,
yeah. Look. If you look at a chart of the Treasury budget deficit, the deficit has been paid down very nicely in the last 2 years. You can just look at the chart.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, we published that at Princeton Research. We discussed that and published that. The Treasury budget that came out last night around 2 o'clock Eastern time.
Yep.
And it was up like 107 billion, and well, last year was up 114 billion. And
okay.
I mean, down 100. And it was paid down by 100. The deficit is 7 billion less than it was last year.
That's great. Hey, you know, you have to wonder. Of course, you know, hindsight is 20/20, but what the
What's amazing to me is the fact that usually when there is a war of any kind, usually it's fairly dramatically inflationary. Because if you think about it, everything to do with the war is basically a one-use item. You know, we end up leaving a lot of equipment there. We use a lot of bullets and guns and bombs and everything. And those are things that, you know, generally, again, as I said, they're one-use items. And they usually jack up inflation pretty dramatically. And yet that hasn't happened at all.
Lot of that because they've got a lot of tanks that are used to, in one conflict or another. The Navy and Air Force seem to recycle, obviously, because you got some Navy ships that are 50, 60 years old. And Air Force. But, yeah, you are right, Charles. I never even thought much about that. But, yeah, you only use a bullet once. And in a lot of cases, you are correct. Let me see. Michael, a couple weeks back, you were talking about don't be too concerned about some of the Chinese junk bonds. But are there some cracks in the armor, if you will? It looks like that they may only grow maybe 1.95 percentage points.
The China market's been on last week.
Okay.
As their numbers are right in line with last year. They haven't had any decline at all.
Okay, so basically, what this article is from Bloomberg. So you kind of disagree with that, and stuff. You have also talked about along the way for many, many years ETFs, and I thought the Market Watch website was so funny. It's are becoming less of an stuff like that. You guys have never, felt that. Now
No.
keep in mind.
I think they're very useful.
Yeah, I mean this came from BlackRock, that big company on Wall Street there.
Well, and so there's clearly an ETF for that because most people don't trade futures.
Right.
But more importantly, there's a gold miners ETF. And as happened a couple of years ago with our friends at Hecla, had a problem at their biggest mine.
That's right.
And so if you just bought the stock, even though it had a really nice dividend at the time,
mm-hmm.
if you bought the stock, then you got stuck when silver continued up, but Hecla was moving down. If you're in the ETF and you were in with a bunch of miners, then you had the diversification that was there. And while the silver miners continued to move, you didn't get hurt being, in Hecla, which had about a 25 or 30% drop because you were diversified throughout the group. So I think that there's a lot of that. People don't want to do, I think basically people need to be spoon-fed a lot of this stuff. They really don't want to, do their own homework and keep up with it on a day-to-day basis. Them.
Exactly. Well, that's why your market letter is so valuable, and that's why.
Well, but the fact is, these ETFs serve a terrific service to the investing public vis-a-vis that, context, but not having to deal with the individual stocks in the content.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, Microsoft looks like it's ready to take off and make new highs from here. It's just undervalued, and it has a big influence. Just broke above its 50-day moving average yesterday, and it looks like it can go to $45.
Wow.
$40.
Yeah, they were talking about it on one of the evening shows last night.
Mm-hmm.
It might have even been on CNBC, the Fast Money show, but they were talking about Microsoft and the fact that, it's going to continue to grow, and, there aren't a lot of people who have been very bullish on it, and so, it comes into the limelight. It, again, pays a dividend. It's something that's so ubiquitous across, the market for anything, computers, desktops, notebooks. It's everywhere. And again, this is what happens. You look at a stock like Walmart or Home Depot that have similar chart patterns to Microsoft, not now, but before. We have, let me just pull up a chart here. We have Walmart that was in a long-term consolidation,
mm-hmm.
as has Microsoft been, where the stock would never get above 54. Well, when it finally broke out a little over 58, it went straight to 80. Now it took 2.5 years, but this is the aircraft carrier of stocks. You just can't turn it on a dime. So you had that in Walmart. In Home Depot, you had pretty much the same thing, where it had not been above 44 for 10 years. First time it went through there, it went from 44 to 80 in 8 months.
Wow.
So, you have the Microsoft here. It's been consolidating. It has worked a little higher, but the stock really hadn't been above 34 or 35 since 2007, and the consolidation went all the way back to the late 1990s. We broke above that 34, and immediately we were 41, and when I say immediately in a long-term chart, 3 months, 4 months. And so, it is a very impressive chart, and if it should break above the high, the real high at 54, the stock could have a fairly extended run. May not be fast, but technically it will be continuous. We wrote in the market letter last week, not this past one, but the one before, when you get into a market like this that's so erratic, we make a new high and 4 days later we're 3% lower than it on the indexes and we stop on a dime. The trend is your friend in these kind of things, and if you have the patience, not from a trading point of view, but from an investing point of view, you can't do a lot better than some of.
Yeah, but I mean, seriously, Microsoft is not a stock that you just buy and sell a couple weeks later. I mean, that's one of those
You
that
could
you
do it
hold
from
on.
34 to. You could have done it from 34 to 40. I mean, that's a.
Oh, I
with
see.
dividends.
Yeah, okay,
Right.
guys. I see your point. I mean, I was just kind of thinking, okay, if I bought Microsoft stock, I'd probably sit on it for a few years, but that's probably not smart. You're right.
But from you could have bought 6 months out, 35 calls on it for $1 or $2.
Yeah.
And on that kind of trade, when it goes to 40 and those things go to $5, that's pretty substantial.
Has talked about this a lot. Is the extent of U.S. companies that are kind of spreading their wings, if you will, overseas. This from CNBC about recovery being patchy, and the labor force is down by 35% in this, whatever the shipping industry is. But a lot of it's automated now. And they talk because they're web-based, and they use a lot of FedEx. They use a lot of UPS. So, they're not going, if you will, the, customary
OM. It's out of Colorado. They have a very special method for manufacturing, using explosions to put metals together. And they make very heavy metals for
never even heard of.
So it's a type of stock that will have tremendous increase in sales for the next 6, 8, 10 months out. People who buy ships.
Okay.
Because shipping has been in a depressed mode because of the problems in Europe and the thought of problems in Asia. The shipping has sure, and now that's all going to change.
Now, what's the name of this company again?
Dynamic Materials out of Colorado.
Dynamic Materials, and the stock symbol?
In Boulder, Colorado.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
BOOM is the symbol. And the stock went down as low in the 18s, leaving a little below that, and now is poised. You buy it on any 2 days down or any little setback in the market, or even at 21 for higher. This company is
Yeah, and
gonna do
the chart on this one, it's a nice consolidation since the beginning of March, when it somewhat topped out around the $24 area, and for the most part, it hung between about 18 3/4 and about 20 1/2, and now has come out of that. On the weekly, it's been pretty much a steady move from November of 12. It rallied up into, from the area around 14 or so up to 18, consolidated again when it broke out above 18. It rallied to 24. It consolidated and came down. I'm going to assume that there was some sort of news or something when the stock had a week that took it from a high of 24 down to 20 and a quarter, but now has consolidated again. And so, the first area that we'd be concerned about would be that high around 24. And if it goes through that, there's
a shipping company type, or company that works with ship holes and stuff like that in the Mile High City with no seaport anywhere in sight. I think that's fascinating. But super strong holes and stuff like that. That would be great. That's amazing. Well, now, Mike, do you have your personal drone yet?
That's an idea.
And use it as our blimp, basically. We're gonna try. I think we're gonna try that at least for one of the games. I'm sure the police department won't appreciate it, but yeah. Unmanned aircraft, as now, did you see, was it CNBC or was it Bloomberg, guys, over the weekend, that they're now talking, we saw the thing on 60 Minutes about, was it FedEx? Or the story on the television was the fact that they're looking at replacing mail carriers with drones. Whoa.
interesting.
Whoa.
Be the exception. And on my street, which is a big double cul-de-sac, the mail doesn't actually get delivered to me. It actually gets delivered to a box, one of those multi-unit boxes, about a block from here.
Each individual, if your box has like a computer chip that drone can identify with.
Oh, yeah.
And
think of that.
And then all of a sudden, the mail
pops open when it gets there, like a garage door.
Yeah. Yep.
For general information, I just sent out a text.
We
are selling the second half of our Boeing calls, and the only reason I'm selling them is because they expire in 3 days, and I don't like to cut it that. The 80 bid offered at 390. So I'm going to guess we're going to get a pretty nice fill on those.
Wow.
Just historically for the trade, we bought these a couple of weeks ago at $1.27, and 2 days. Let's call it 380 area, because I can't imagine it trades below next on against the bid. So that's pretty close. That's just about a triple on the second half of those.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a great trade, Charles.
380. Yeah.
Good work.
Thank you.
Wow, that sounds.
And again,
awesome.
I still like the stock. It's just that, you really can't play these things till the last day in their expiration cycle, because we get any kind of news or any kind of sell-off, these things go down point for point with the stock. I mean,
Yeah.
yesterday they were up over $1 because the stock was up over $1. Same thing happens on the downside, so it's a little bit difficult. But there they go. They just traded at 380, so that's the print that we'll be dealing with. So
situation in Russia. According to Bloomberg, today is the day that Russia will cut
Let's
off.
welcome Sylvain Thesrosius.
Oh, hello, Sylvain.
Inventor, quite an active inventor in security.